Well, one of the key differences is that the market got going a lot earlier in Europe. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we used to, pre-financial crisis, 2007, we used to have synthetic securitizations. And if you look at the documents, they were done in a very similar way to the way you see the documents done today. But these were arbitrage trades instead of balance sheet trades. So financial crisis happens, that sort of product that's not going to be allowed to happen again. But in Europe, 2014 onwards, the regulators start to encourage and approve balance sheet driven trades to gain regulatory capital relief off portfolios of instruments. And we get a series of EU regulations that promote that, and we get an industry growing up. Now, the regulators in the US have taken a bit more convincing to let the market grow. But on the other hand, we've got such a bigger capital market in the United States. So it's a little bit later getting going in the US, but we've seen a lot of activity over the last couple of years. We've seen big banks doing these transactions. We've been seeing large funds come into the space. We're seeing state banks do trades. Now what you do see is you do see waves and retractions of activity in the US, but I think it's tended to be a bit more constant in the European space. But let's take a look at this conference and other conferences. For a long time, what you'd be seeing is you'd have a conference done in Europe, usually in London, and you'd have a conference done in New York. And for a long time, we were seeing for the London-based conferences, we were seeing it's a reflection of deals, they're getting done, the sort of people coming to the conference, they are doing the transactions. And in the US, it was very much a fact-finding. It was this will be something that comes to the US. Now, we have a big presence, a big market getting going in the US, but with such a huge capital market in the United States, there's an enormous amount of opportunity. There's some great presentations today at the conference, and I really enjoyed the panels that were looking at the insurers and the reinsurers. Now, if you drill in and you think, what is CRT and SRT really about? It is about risk transfer. You are transferring the risk on a portfolio of debt, and you are taking a tranche of that and you are transferring that. What do insurers do? Insurers absorb risk. So they're very well placed to come into this market. They're also very well placed to do the analytical studies, looking at the portfolio, working out, running models, saying what is the probability of default? Is this the right thing for me to invest in? Now what you do find, of course, is insurers and reinsurers are massive organizations. This isn't necessarily what they do. This will be a relatively small part of any insurer or reinsurer. That'll be quite different to some of the funds that you'll see here, where investing in financial instruments is what they do. So really interesting seeing more insurers and reinsurers coming in. We're seeing some really interesting structures to bring insurers in. Now one of the difficulties is under the capital requirements regulation for synthetic securitization deals, the credit risk mitigants, it's guarantees or credit derivatives, and it's been more difficult over the years. That's really sort of progressed at bringing insurance in as a credit risk mitigant. Now, what insurers also have is they have very high credit ratings as well. So being able to do what we call unfunded deals that we were talking about at the conference, that's really interesting. They're able to come in and do those transactions. But I think what I really enjoy at this conference is going through the attendee lists and see who's actually coming. And you have a lot of insurers and reinsurers here today. It's a significant proportion. And from what I've seen in the market, most of those insurers, they're out there and they're doing transactions. Well, so it's a mixture of education and networking. So I really enjoy going and hearing different panels, getting insights into what's happening in the markets. Now, one of the things about this particular area is it's a very private market. They tend to be private deals. So it's not like, for instance, if I was a bonds lawyer, I could be printing off lots of prospectuses and working through those and think, oh, these are the types of deals. Or if I was to do securitization, I'd get a feel for that. Because these tend to be private deals, I get much more of a feel for listening to these panels about the markets. Now, some conferences go too far in not giving you any time to actually network. It's all about the education. Or you could go to some other ones and it's the other way around, so that they don't have any education. It's all about the networking. So what I like about this conference is you've got a good balance, that you can be out there and you can be talking, you meet a lot of people, meet new potential clients, new people in the market, plus also see the people you're working with or you haven't worked with for a while. So great on the networking side, great on the education side. Well, you never know, because you don't know what happens in the market. If you'd asked me in 2007 at the Global ABS conference, what we'll be discussing next year, it wouldn't have been the global financial crisis. So there will always be things that will come up that are new. I think what we will be discussing is a maturing of the market. So I'm on a panel later on, it's New Frontiers, looking at new areas. Now I expect next year we'll be talking, well actually we've done more transactions. They're no longer new frontiers. These are more mature markets. Really like the panel you did on rating agencies. I could see that being a bigger part as the rating it. You'll be seeing more rated deals come up in the market. You always have a US piece. I see that being, again, how's the US market? How has that progressed? So I think a maturing of the market. I expect probably see a little bit more on the regulatory side as as the regulations develop. And I did notice you have some regulators amongst the attendees. I imagine you might be having a regulator giving perhaps a fireside chat or similar things like that. But very interesting, and I'm sure there'll be things we haven't even contemplated will be on the agenda next year.